Macrosystem's Title Effect Pack 2 is a collection of several motion options to add to your Casablanca standard titler. With Title Effects Pack 2, you can customize your title with lighting, fades, 3 dimensions, motions, and even reflections. You can even give the appearance of the titles appearing like they're on a glass-like surface. Since there are several effects to choose from, we're just going to highlight a few of the popular ones, and we're going to go over the basic controls that manipulate each of these effects. To operate the Title Effects Pack 2, you do need to be running SmartEdit version 2.5 or above. To activate the program, just simply come into System Settings here and go into Install Product by left-clicking. And at this point, then you'd insert your All Software Smart Card or All Software CD, depending on your system. And then alphabetically, after it reads, choose Title Effects Pack 2. There are several different title effects packages for the Casablanca. We're currently working with this Title Effects Pack 2 in this video manual. You do also want to make sure that your version number of the package that you're working with is up to date. Otherwise, you might run into some conflicts between the package you're using and your system software. So you might want to make sure that both those are up to speed by checking out our website, www.macrosystem.us, and check under the Products section to make sure each version of your software packages is up to date. Once you've highlighted your package, you would then select Activate, and the keypad would appear, and if you had purchased the program, the 12-digit code you got from your dealer would be entered, and then your program would become active when you click on OK to close the keypad. Otherwise, the Title Effect Pack 2 can be produced in a demo mode if you were to cancel the keypad. To use Title Effects Pack 2, I do need to prepare myself here back in the Edit bin. And we're just going to use one of these random digital hotcakes as our background, in this case the sky animation here, and add this up to the storyboard, and then perhaps add a little color before and a little color after, just to have some kind of separation here. Now, when we come back over to the main titling menu, you can use the capital T button or come to the main menu here and go to Titling. And then alphabetically in the list, we would be using some of the effects that come from that Title Effect Pack 2. Now, right now, we're looking at the entire list, and this can get pretty busy with all our title effects packages. So what you might want to do is check on this little button down below, which I like to call the decluttering tool, and choose to focus on only the Title Effects Pack 2 version. Once we've selected Title Effects Pack 2, alphabetically in the listing here, we'll have only the features and effects that come with this particular software package. Makes it a little easier for us to kind of locate and find our effects that we want to use here. The first thing that you'd do in titling is you'd want to click on Add to add your effect to the storyboard. And then in most cases, you might want to click on your timer box to choose how long this title is going to last. I'm going to click on the timer box and choose the Range button and hit OK. And instead of using 10 seconds of this animation, I'm going to set my title so it comes in after a second or so, and make it last only maybe, I don't know, 6 or 7 seconds here. That way the title doesn't last the entire clip. So we've added our effect to the board, we've chose the timer, we've decluttered your effects bin to focus on the Title Effect Pack 2. So now we're ready to talk about some of our controls. In this list, you're going to kind of see that it has a couple of separation points. We have letter effects, line effects, path effects, a couple of perspectives, and some PIPs. The letter and the line effects here pretty much have the same kind of controls over here on the right. As you can see, as I'm switching between these, they have different motion paths, appearance, archives, etc. The first thing we're going to talk about here is I'm just going to randomly choose something like letter zooming, is we have our motion path. Left click on motion path, and here what you're going to see is a preview of just the letter A, which represents a letter of your title, on a glass plane. Don't worry, this glass plane can be deactivated when we create our appearance of the letter, but just use it as a reference for you doing rotations of this letter on particular axes. So as I scroll X, Y, and Z on the rotations, you can see how we are rotating this letter. And then we have choices here for bounce, power, speed, and frequency. These basically reference the particular title that you're typing and indicating that when we do this letter zoom or this letter bounce, we're going to be doing things to give it frequency and speed changes. So before I actually do anything with this, I might actually want to come in here and type my title first. That way we can use our preview button to see these changes. So I'm just going to randomly go into Enter Edit Text using the Smart Edit 4 titler and just type in a generic test title. I'm going to choose a font that's pretty clean and of a large size so you can kind of see it. And I'm going to give it a outline here. Choose this dark pattern. That way it's a little more dominant on the screen. We can kind of see this a little better. And then I'll hit OK to close the menu. Now when we talk about letter zooming, when we hear preview, we can see the 6-second effect. The letters kind of zoom in and out on the line. Now we can actually check on our motion path and see that if I was to increase my bounce power, it means that this is going to bounce in that zoom much more strongly. If I click on speed, now that bounce is going to be faster. And if I increase the frequency, we're going to give a little bit of a kind of a letter shift, if you will, or a letter delay, so that when it zooms in and out, the letters kind of go behind one another. So you can see that increasing these percentages here will make those differences to the title effect. Otherwise, each adjustment to each axis gives the title a different appearance. And you can check these every time you click on the preview button. Now the preview button, you might want to use this more along the lines of just getting an idea of how the pitch and the angle look for these adjustments and what your controls are set here for the title. Don't use it for an accuracy placement because it is so compressed. The other option we have here in these title effects is the appearance. Here we can actually talk about the spotlight that's hitting your letters. Right now you can kind of see that we do have a little bit of an edge of the glass when we have a light direction hitting our letters. And if you change your light color here, I'm going to use a lighter color so we can see a little more of that glass pane look here. And based on what your light is, if you have it set to normal, it's going to just flush it full with the light color. Spotlight will give it a spotlight based on this light direction. So when you click on this drop-down menu, you have these sources as your virtual light source. You can see now the light's hitting from this direction as a spotlight, maybe hitting from the bottom, hitting the letters. If you choose this to be off, then you'll see all these controls will go to gray, meaning that you have no choice. But our glass pane is now gone. So when you hit preview, now we're going to see those letters do their zoom in and out without having the squared edge or the glass around them. If you wish to have that there, you can always turn the light back on and then again adjust your light source direction, the light color, depending on what you choose in your color wheel, so we can always reflect a colored light source hitting your letters. How much reflection do you want to have? So you can increase or decrease the reflection. You can see this is a real-time slider, giving just a slight appearance of reflection on that. And then our fake glass, how do we want to have the edge of this glass? Do we want to have it thick, thin, or even off? So you can do all these different manipulations to the appearance of your particular title. I'm going to set this to be off in this particular case and hit OK. Now you have all these other choices of different types of effects for lines and letters. Basically we're saying a line is going to zoom in here or a line is going to swing, instead of referring to individual letters in this case when we're using swing and zooming. So we get more of that letter shift or delay in letters that appear on the screen depending on what you do in your motion path. Some of these filters also have the choice to apply a fade. So if you want to have the effects fade on or fade off on the screen. You can even use your archive button. When you left click on archives, this opens up your standard save abilities to save a particular series of title effects, especially when you set up those motion paths, or maybe load them in another project. That's especially important because when you click on motion path, you can see we have all these different degrees that you can come in here and manipulate for these titles. You have this complete control over how the letters are going to look. All I'm doing is left clicking on the slider and using my trackball to move left or right to create this movement on the X rotation. And then hit OK to close it. So those controls, because they have so many variances, might be one that you want to archive so that you can use this in other projects or other particular scenes on your storyboard. You can see each one of these when you do a preview will show you a different type of effect. In this case, our letters are flying on with a glass effect and flying off. Do have a long fade set here, so I'm going to drop this back down. Letter rotate, here's a preview what letter rotate kind of does. It brings those letters in and allows them to kind of rotate on one of the axes so it spins out and fades out. You've got letter swing, so letters kind of swing up and down, and again you can see a little bit of a delay here between the letters that you can create when you go into the motion path to adjust your frequency. We also have these line effects, so maybe we want to have things like the entire line zoom in. So now you can see all the letters are attached to the glass plane and the whole line zooms in or out. Here's an example of a particular DVD title that was done using the line zooming. You get this kind of effect here at the end for your volume for this particular DVD product. The render times on the Title Effects Pack 2 are a little long. So if I do choose to create one, let's say line rotate, we're going to see a little bit of a rotation here. And I'm going to turn my glass off on this particular one. So I'm going to go into Appearance and choose Off. So like you saw in that example, we don't have any glass plane on the background of these letters. And I'm going to go ahead and create. And we're going to speed up the render here for the demo. So here's the rendered title. Give it a nice rotation on there for the line. And remember, to save you some rendering time, you might even use the Smart Render tool that comes with your Smart Edit versions of 4 or above, or use your compressed preview or even the full-size preview so you get a full-size display of the information on the screen. Under the lines and letters options here, we also have paths. Think of paths more along the lines of maybe using pages, but your information is going to come along on a path. So the glass pane that fills the screen there, that's actually the path that we're actually referring to on the motion path. So when I click on motion path here, now the in and the out are new options for us. So the in has a whole list of different types of motion paths to work with, so that's how the title comes on the screen. Very similar to the motion 3D effects. And I might choose one of the 3 as its option for in, and you can mirror that option if you wanted to. The out, I might choose the path generator for number 6, and then hit preview. So there's a preview of what 3 and 6, 3 in, and number 6 has kind of a pull out in a diagonal flip. So if I choose out to 7, hit OK, then use preview, again in slides for number 3, and now we're going to see the out of number 7. The options for in, coincidentally, or out, coincidentally, allow you to actually select a random generator here that it chooses randomly an in and an out, and whether or not you're going to mirror that effect, if it's going to have the opposite direction on each one of those. So when I hit mirror at 26, it randomly chooses the numbers at that 26 level for its in and for its out. And of course I can change the random generator, hit preview, and now here's a new random selection of what the in and the out will do for you. If you have some favorites, write them down, mark what the in may be doing or the out may be doing to help you remember in case you like those type of paths. Just remember when we do path double, you can almost kind of see here visually is that we have our little images coming on a path. And this is if you have more than one page. We're going to have page 1 come on and off one direction as an in, and the out is how the other page is going to come on. So I'm going to go into Enter Edit Text, and under Pages, I'm going to insert a second page behind this one. I'll go to Text, and type in page 2. And I'm going to give this a more solid color so we can identify it a little easier, some kind of bright color here. And we're using the Smart Edit 4 titler. I'll hit OK to keep my changes. And now when I hit preview, I'm going to see the first title move in on its path, followed by the path of the second title, and then out. If I use path plane, it means that we're going to see the first one, it's going to come all the way off the screen before the second one comes on. On path double, we get to see the first one going off while the second page comes on. So here's plain path single. Off it goes, and now page 2 comes on and off. Those are going really quick because we have a short amount of time here, and I've set up a long fade for each one. Path two-sided means that we'll see the glass pane with the information on one, and also see the other one come on another page of sides. So we're actually looking at two sides of the glass pane here. And again, each one of these can be adjusted on the motion path. You can adjust the coincidentally, or choose a particular path, and whether you wish to mirror it. The random generator would only be active if you set this coincidentally. And we can see here what this will do with these settings for the path two-sided. We have two other options here for perspective horizontal scroll and perspective vertical scroll. These are the ones that you might actually even recognize here, used in commonly like in Star Wars, where we have the vertical movement of this information going off into the distance. The controls over here give a designation of how that appearance in effect is going to work. First, you have your area. This basically represents a breakdown of the screen into thirds. When we're using the vertical scroll, we're talking about the upper third, the middle third, and the lower third. If I have it set to full, you can kind of see it's working all the way up to send the information of text to the upper third. If you were to set it to the 2/3, then we're going to be going towards the middle of the screen. And of course, the 1/3 would be the lower third of the screen. The direction refers to the title going to the back of the screen or towards you. So if it's set to 2 front, when I use this, it's going to come towards us, based again on the area that you've chosen. You can give it a fade on or a fade off just by left-clicking to choose a fade on or a fade off. And page height, this would be if you wanted to get more information on the page. You might click on double size so that you could type in more info in the text editor here, so that you can squeeze on more data or more title information in this title effect. The perspective horizontal scroll is kind of the same thing with the same kind of controls. This time we basically say our thirds are now in the left, middle, or right side of the screen. So if I set it to 1/3, now we're going to be talking about this 1/3 part of the right side of the screen. Just depends on which perspective that you're using. We have one other series of effects here, just to mention them. There is PIP, horizontal scroll, logo, or simple. Logo, basically we're going to get kind of a logo on the screen that's going to spin around. And we can actually see our second page come on the screen on that logo. So I'm going to go back into Enter Edit Text and get rid of my page. So under Pages, I'll go page 2 and delete it. And then hit OK to come back out. And you'll see the logo, depending on what you choose as your position for the access for this information. You see you have a position and a rotation that we're working with, as well as a motion path. So now it's going to be angled on a path that it's going to be working on, as well as the normal axis of X, Y, and Z. So when I hit preview here, we can kind of see that this is all tilting on this particular axis, and the title is also here on this particular plane. So you have a lot of controls that you can do here, manipulating the positioning and the motion path. PIP Simple is the very basic one. This basically just makes your title stay on or off the screen with the fade on or off that you can have tilted on one of the 3 dimensions. So in this case, under motion path, I might come in here, adjust the position. So these position sliders are now adjusting the position in space that title has with X, Y, and Z, and now you can see Z is kind of a zoom in or a zoom out. And then our rotational values. So now I can give it a different pitch, bank, and heading on these settings for this title. Under Appearance, I might take the light off. So under Light, I'll switch from Spotlight to Off. Hit OK, and now I can preview. So now we have this title that fades on or fades off just on that three-dimensional axis that you assigned. You can experiment further with these other PIPs or these different planes or line zooms. Again, just use your preview button here to get a compressed preview of how the title is going to look based on what you did for its motion path, again its rotations or movements that you might assign to it, or your appearance based on light hitting the letter information, what kind of light source and reflection you want to give it. So the Title Effects Pack 2 gives you a lot more activity and a lot more third dimension to your titles when you use them on the normal title engine on the Casablanca, and it's a great package to add to your system. Check it out at www.macrosystem.us.